When I'd arrived that morning, I'd picked up The Defiant out of a cardboard box full of books by the front counter. Romance, $2 a bag, read the sign. The cover showcased a stunning redhead with cleavage brimming over the top of an Elizabethan dress. A shirtless man with an '86 Bon Jovi hairdo stood in the distance and glared at her menacingly. Or was it passionately? I swear I just couldn't tell sometimes. Sure, I read other kinds of books. Lots of them, in just about every genre you can imagine. But I loved romances. There was something so comforting about knowing the whole story just from looking at the front cover. First, a political intrigue to keep the hero and heroine apart. Next, conflicting loyalties, hardened hearts, and possibly a forced engagement to an economically advantageous but physically and morally repulsive suitor. Several interrupted encounters until finally they find themselves trapped in a cave, a barn, or a shepherd's cottage during a violent rainstorm, and then you'd have your general bulging breeches, pink-tipped breasts, and primal rhythm as old as love. It wasn't Shakespeare, but it sure beat LinkedIn as a way to kill an afternoon. I'd gotten to a climactic duel when I saw the owner of the card shop a block away stop in front of the Dragonfly's window. She beamed at Hugo and knocked on the glass, but he didn't move. I nudged him. He noticed card shop lady, smiled, and blew her a kiss. "Does she know you're cooking squid a la Hugo tonight for that real estate agent who was in here earlier?" I asked. "Maggie, when you reach our age, you'll find that ignorance is often liberating," he said as he returned to the dramas of Sir Walter Scott, balanced on the soft pudge above the belt he'd loosened after a dim sum lunch. I'd never seen him in anything other than jeans and worn cotton shirts rolled up at the sleeves. In his late 50s, he peered through black-rimmed reading glasses that made him look like the headmaster at some faraway boarding school where children in English novels are sent, Mr. Chips in Birkenstocks. I returned to The Defiant. The Dragonfly was an eager dealer for my romance novel habit. I found them everywhere, wedged between an owner's manual for a '61 Valiant and a guide to tantric sex. Under the front counter next to the wooden recipe box where Hugo kept index cards to keep track of customers' accounts for books they'd traded in. In a paperback landslide created by Grendel, the Dragonfly's cat, who didn't maneuver between the shelves as deftly as he once did. The Dragonfly's stacks were a labyrinth of L-shaped sections that curled in on themselves like the shells I used to hunt on the Carolina beaches as a child. You could spend hours, even days, searching the stacks, trying to find the one specific book you were looking for. Generally, it was much easier to take what you found, rather than to try to find what you wanted. I could knock out 2 or 3 of these romances a day. Reaching the half-blank last page gave me that little methy thrill that's the holy grail every software coder wants their user to feel, like killing it on sudden death in Guitar Hero, or earning the strawberry cow in Farmville. At last, your inner addict says, "I did it. I can stop now and spend my hours solving world hunger." But you don't. There are more fake guitars to play or a neon henhouse to buy or, in my case, a pirate to seduce. And what in the real world can compete with that? My habit drove my last boyfriend crazy. To Brian, an iOS coder who wrote a barcode image processing library that uploaded the nutritional info for packaged food that he sold to a bunch of different diet apps for a truckload of money, romance novels made about as much sense as a PlayStation did to a hummingbird. "You've got to make success a daily habit," he'd say to me. "Finding a job is your new job." That made it hard for me to tell him I was playing hooky from my new job at the Dragonfly. So I didn't. Then we'd have sex. It's near impossible for a man to concentrate enough to point out the inefficiencies in your time management when the two of you are going down the horizontal ski jump. We were together 2 years, until he moved to Austin a couple of months ago without ever bringing up me going with him. He was a nice guy. They're always nice guys. But no one comes to Silicon Valley to fall in love. I was getting onto my duel when I felt a kick in the back of my chair. I turned around the side to glare at Jason, his black Babylon 5 t-shirt billowing around his toothpick arms, his finger holding his place in a paperback the size of a hay bale with futuristic knights on the cover. He seemed colorless to me, dark wiry hair, skin like the underbelly of a catfish, and his head looked as though it had been pressed by a vice. Barely 5 feet tall with a slight limp, his appendages sticking out at odd angles, he had the look of someone who'd been half trampled by a runaway horse and buggy. "Done yet?" Jason asked. "What?" "Chair. Are you done?"